And it's worked to this stage, but we'll be talking later about the next test, and it is a serious test at the next level.
Right. Do you think they've benefited from having these extra games in the qualifiers?
I was really shocked with the Wexford game because I saw them 3 times in the league, including I came down to see them playing against Derry in Parnell Park. I mean, and they just looked a totally different team. You know, Pat's tenure this year is all about, you know, ensuring against collapses.
Yeah.
You know, and they defended ferociously throughout the league, and it was a pattern in every game.
Yeah.
And then they seemed to just, after 15 minutes of the Wexford match was enough to make them lose their confidence in it totally. And then they came into the Meath game and they didn't know whether they were coming or going. No one was sure who was going to be playing or what the system was, you know. And, you know, I think now they're starting to get back to that defensive solidity again. I'll give you the most striking example of it during the league. I was at the match in Omagh between Tyrone and Dublin, you know, confidently expecting a real, you know, tight game of football. And, you know, Dublin destroyed them that day. But it was all through work ethic in the group, even though Bernard Brogan sort of starred at the end of it all. You know, it was the work ethic in the group. And whenever they brought on Diarmuid Connolly, he stuck out like a sore thumb. You immediately thought to yourself, after a couple of minutes, there's a luxury player. He looks out of place here today.
Is he not off the panel now at this stage?
He's gone off the panel now, yeah.
They identified him fairly quick. He's not contributing enough, and he's fallen back.
A lot of the newcomers, I mean, there's so many of them in the Dublin squad, but you're impressed with these?
Well, I was, because they're very honest, and we're going to be saying honesty, gritty, determined. You know, O'Carroll at full-back, like, this is the sort of well-conditioned player that Dublin produce. You know, really going for it.
Well, it's been a long time since Dublin had 3 actual full-backs who play full-back for their clubs.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time that was going back 25, 30 years.
Like, he worked really hard all day. And I'm not saying he's a superstar. No, they're not. We're only getting to know them. In fact, you know, they're only settling into a Dublin setup. But they're very honest. And they keep it a bit naive, but very honest. And that's what Gilroy wants from his team. And they're all at it. And now we're going to see O'Gara, and I just hope that these goals and points, they don't hype him to death. But that's a good finish, Joe.
Well, he looks like a big sort of he looks like a big GI coming out of the jungle, you know, with a skinhead and a rampage instead. And I think the thing I like about him is, although he looks a bit raw, he doesn't get too bothered about it. He just goes out and plays, and he doesn't seem to have any hang-ups, which has been a big problem for Dublin players, you know, psychologically.
That was a fantastic piece of work. I watch the way he works back. Even he stops it going over the end line, and he works the position here, gets the dispossession again, and turns it into an opportunity. And they're the small little bits. Right. Look, will there be enough? Probably won't be at a higher level. But it's a start. It's all they have, you know, in one sense, they have to start somewhere. Yeah, and this is one of the key building blocks for them.
Pat, Kevin's completely right. You know, Pat had no choice whatsoever. And after all the spectacular collapses, he had to change things and change them dramatically. And what I was worried about after the Wexford game was that he was losing his nerve and all of that. You know, you've got to stick with this. You look at the teams that have built dynasties like Tyrone, you know, come hell or high water, you know, you've got to have conviction and believe in what you're doing. And, you know, it would be an awful shame if they didn't continue what they're doing. Because sooner or later, stellar individuals are going to come along to augment the team.
Well, we'll talk about their quarter-final draw in a while, but next up, it's the meeting of Sligo and Down. It produced a pretty remarkable scoreline. Reporting on it is Adrian Eames.
There was a 10-minute delay in throw-in at Kingspan Breffni Park due to traffic congestion on the approach roads to Cavan Town. But the delay didn't unduly affect Down, who cruised to an all-too-easy win against a Sligo side who crumbled just 6 days after their Connacht final defeat to Roscommon. Unlike last weekend, when they started sluggishly against Offaly, Down put the foot to the floor right from the start. Callum King winning the ball cleanly from the throw-in to set Down on their way. And Marty Clark teed up his brother John for the opening point after just 12 seconds. Down were 3 points up inside 4 minutes, but it might have been even worse for Sligo, but Philip Green made a tremendous save to deny Paul McComiskey. With Down dominating midfield, Sligo were struggling to gain a foothold in the game, but this excellent point from Stephen Cohen boosted their fragile confidence. And David Kelly, who was held scoreless in the Connacht final, landed a lovely score to keep Sligo in touch. But Down, who've been quietly going about their business in the qualifiers, were much the sharper side throughout. Marty Clark provided leadership, kicking 3 placed balls, and this fine point to ease Down into an 8-3 lead after 28 minutes. And then Down grabbed the first of their 3 goals. Benny Coulter got the measure of Noel Maguire and unselfishly picked out John Clark, and the unreact man fisted the ball to the net. By half-time, Down led by 7 points and they powered on in the second half. Ambrose Rogers finding the net after Green denied his first attempt. 2-12 to 6 points and game over less than 5 minutes into the second half. Benny Coulter made way for Ronan Murtha. Sligo were probably relieved with that, but Murtha was a man on a mission to impress. He hit Down's next 5 points in the space of 15 minutes. He coolly fisted over shortly after his introduction and then kicked this point, much to the delight of the travelling Down support. The full-time whistle couldn't come quickly enough for Sligo. Peter Fitzpatrick showed some sympathy for the Westerners when electing to go for a point when the goal chance was on, but Murtha showed no such mercy, finishing the ball to the net. Sligo only managed 4 points in the second half, a year which saw them win promotion to Division 2 and beat Mayo and Galway, ending in a provincial final defeat and a hammering from Down. A clinical job by James McCartan's side, 10 different players on the score sheet, a 19-point win. It finished Down 320, Sligo 10 points.
That's not the real Sligo team out there today. You know, it's I did make reference to the 6-day turnaround, which is, you know, complete crap, to be honest with you. Having said that, that's the way it is. The fixture made at the start of the year, but you know, I don't know. There was a 13-day rule there, I think, a few years ago. You know, the 6 days is enough. Look, having said that, Down were very, very good there today, but you know, we were definitely very, very flat.
Sligo don't need me to be fighting their case, but you know, we took advantage of the situation that was in front of us, and we could only beat what was in front of us, and we did that emphatically.
Joe Brolly, you're saying to us there you think Down are maybe underestimated a little bit around the country.
Well, James is a proper manager, you know. I mean, his problem is that he has a lack of real quality defenders, and so what he's done is he's using James Colgan as a sweeper. And when he was at Queen's, you know, his team was very defensively based because he didn't have the embarrassment of riches of other universities. I mean, some of the universities will take you in for flower arranging if you're a good footballer, you know. But I mean, Queen's went on to win the Sigerson after 2 or 3 years, where they went to the final each time. And you know, the thumbprint of the manager was all over the team, and you can see that with them now. You know, they've got very vibrant attacking play. They were a serious threat to Tyrone. Like, I was at the match, and for about the first 10-15 minutes they really pulverised Tyrone, you know, and they have a lot of big rampaging forwards like Ambrose Rogers, players like that, you know, Martin Clark, Benny Coulter and all those boys. James has done a very good job. I mean, they had a stellar campaign in Division 2, put up big scores every day. The problem, of course, yesterday was that it was a nightmare scenario for Sligo. You know, Down were knocked out 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. They've had that was their third match in the qualifiers, so they had Longford awfully. They got the sickening blow of Tyrone out of their systems. You know, Sligo, meanwhile, had the old dream shattered 6 days ago. You know, and by the time you've sort of tried to compose yourself and wonder where it all went wrong, all of a sudden you're facing this, you know, totally vibrant Down attack, and you know, it was always going to be a disaster for them.
Kevin, it has to be asked, is that unfair on Sligo and Monaghan?
It's absolutely unfair, of course, but you have to look at...
Is there a solution to it?
Yes.
There is, yeah. The calendar has to be tweaked, but
Could Connacht not play their matches off a bit quicker? It's a long
But see, there are competing agents in this whole debate, like the television debate, obviously. We don't want the 4 provincial finals on the one day. They have to be spread out. Of course, the qualifiers, Joe, aren't supposed to be easy on the team that loses. You know, we want the...
It's supposed to be a punishment.
It is, essentially, because the championship is sacrosanct. So, like, we should be rewarding those that continue to win, obviously. But, having said that...
Except me.
Limerick were out for 3 weeks ago. Sligo and Monaghan were out 6... And we've spoken about the numbers when you lose after a 6-day turnaround. You just don't win.
I don't think it's so much the time, Kevin,
to wall up the mental...
as to get a game. If you get a game, then it goes out of your system completely, you know. Even, you know, Colin was talking about, you know, the Meath lads. He was talking about Shane and that after the Louth experience, which was rotten for them, of course, as well, because of the publicity and all, you know, and the sort of feeling of embarrassment that having something that was tainted and all that. But the way to get it out of their system was they went and all played club championship for their clubs. And then it goes out of your system, whereas Sligo had nothing like that, nor did Monaghan. You know, they were coming in there sick as pigs, totally vulnerable.
All right then, sympathy is all they're going to get, unfortunately, this year. Well, time for a break, but don't go away, because we'll hear why Joe doesn't fancy Cork's football chances coming up, and Kevin's going to tell us all about his hot zone, so stay with us. Back to the Sunday game. Joe Brolly and Kevin McStay are with us, and we're reflecting on all of the weekend football action and the quarter-final draw. But next we head to the Gaelic grounds and